Hola, buen día. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas, bienvenidex a esta lección acerca de los interrogativos. Interrogatives or question words in Spanish. Question words are some of the most essential vocabulary in Spanish communication, especially when it comes to conversation. We need to know question words because they help us ask specific questions about the topic of conversation. We will start today's lesson with a simple song that teaches you the base question words in the same order that you learned them way back in elementary school. Who, what, where, why, when, and how. ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué y cómo? ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué y cómo? Si necesitas más información, usa estas palabras, por favor. ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué y cómo? ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué y cómo? ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué y cómo? Si necesitas más información, usa estas palabras, por favor. ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué? ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué? ¿Y cómo? ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué? ¿Y cómo? Si necesitas más información, usa estas palabras, por favor. ¿Quién, qué, cuándo, dónde, por qué y cómo? So let's look at each interrogativo with a little bit more detail. Let's start with ¿quién? This means who. As in, ¿quién sabe la respuesta? Who knows the answer? ¿Qué? Which means what? As in, ¿qué es tu animal favorito? Our next word is ¿dónde? Where? As in, ¿dónde está la biblioteca? Where's the library? Our next question word is ¿cuándo? Or when, as in, ¿cuándo termina la clase? When does the class end? Our next question word is ¿por qué? Why? As in, ¿por qué hacemos tanta tarea? Why do we do so much homework? Now, while we're talking about por qué, we should talk about the conjunction por qué, right? This is por qué, two words accented e. This is the one word por qué with no accent over the e. This second por qué means because. So I'll give you the answer to the last question. ¿Por qué hacemos tanta tarea? Hacemos tanta tarea porque tenemos que practicar. We do so much homework because we have to practice. And finally, the question word ¿cómo? You have already used this word because you know how to ask someone's name when you ask ¿cómo te llamas? And one more thing, you did maybe notice this in the song, but I wanted to point out that when we ask a question in written Spanish, it's very important that we have the special diacritical upside down question mark at the beginning of our question. This diacritical mark can be inserted at the beginning of the question, or if there's a dependent clause before the question, it would go after the comma and right before the beginning of the next clause. Now, let's look at a couple of these question words in a little bit more detail. We're going to elaborate upon 4 of these question words to learn how to ask more specific questions in Spanish. Let's start with the question word que, which means what. As you can see, I've put the sight words a and de before que. When you ask a qué, you're asking to what? When you ask de qué, you are asking about what? Here are 2 examples. ¿A qué refieres? This means like, what are you referring to, or to what are you referring? ¿De qué se trata? It's like asking, what is it about? So like, ¿es una buena película? ¿De qué se trata? Which is like asking, oh, it's a good movie? Oh, what is it about? Next up is ¿dónde?, which means where. When you add the sight word a, it becomes ¿a dónde?, which is asking like, to where. In English, we usually say like, where are you going to? But in Spanish, you would ask, ¿a dónde vas?, as in, to where are you going? Next up, we have ¿cuándo?, meaning when. If you put the word para in front of it, para means for. You're asking like about a specific day in the future or a specific time in the future. For example, ¿para cuándo es esta tarea? Which is like asking like, when is this homework due? The final question word that we're going to elaborate upon today has the most possibilities. You could see we have 4 different sight words, de, a, con, para, that are combined with kin to ask different specific questions. Let's look at each example. De quién is like asking from whom. De quién es? Who is it from? Or from whom is it? Next one. ¿A quién? That would mean something like to whom, right? So this example is ¿a quién pertenece? Or something like who does it belong to? Or to whom does it belong? Next one is ¿con quién?, which would mean with whom, as in ¿con quién sales esta noche? Or who are you going out with tonight? Or with whom are you going out tonight? And then at the end here we have ¿para quién? Para again means for. In this case we're talking about a recipient of a gift. ¿Para quién is like for whom? ¿Para quién es el regalo? Who is the gift for? Or for whom is the gift? Y eso concluye nuestra lección acerca de los interrogativos. That's the end of our lesson, but we're not done with the work. A practicar, ya.